Okay, setting up live stream. Okay. I hope this is working. We should be live. Perfect. So yeah, for everyone joining in, we might just wait a few seconds, but yeah, I'm very excited for everyone being here today to have Daniel with me again. Daniel is almost like a regular by now. And yeah, we just might wait a couple of seconds. So if you're joining us tonight, would be great maybe if you could put in the comment section below, if you're a homeowner as well, or designer, builder, or architect in the space. And yeah, we'll be getting started shortly. And if you watch the recording of this, the same applies. If you have any questions, just put them at the bottom and we can get back to you later. So yeah, let's hope the tech gremlins are not against us today and we can manage everything. That would be really, really nice. But yeah, so maybe we get started. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us tonight, talking with Daniel 𝗵𝗲, the founder from 𝗵𝗵𝘁 Academy. So yeah, I'm very excited to have him with us again tonight. We had a few previous sessions where we talked about Passivhaus in general, and Daniel is such a wealth of knowledge. But today we have a bit of a different topic: how you can actually boost your loan capacity by 25% by going Passivhaus, which I am personally quite excited about because I managed now to live in a Passivhaus, which is, very amazing. But it would be great actually if we could reduce the mortgage a little bit. So yeah, I'm very excited to have you here, Daniel. So Daniel, if I could hand over to you and if you could give us a bit of an intro into your green loan presentation, that would be brilliant.
Okay, thank you, Simone. Yes, I hope I'm allowed to share my screen later, just mentioning that now. Yeah, thank you, Simone, for the introduction. And what I will share today will be a total game changer if what I'm telling is true. We don't have an example of it yet, that it is actually true. So we need to, I need you guys to come back to me and to Simone to actually tell us about what discounts you're getting. What I'm giving you is an example I got from a green loan specialist. And if that is true, you're able, with a $1 million project, you're able to have about $22,000 more in your pocket by just going Passivhaus, even with considering that you have higher costs to actually build a Passivhaus. So it's totally mind-blowing. And I want to explain you a little bit why that is, and as well, because maybe a lot of people in here don't know what Passivhaus is. So I will as well explain a lot about Passivhaus and what Passivhaus is and why Passivhaus is the first step, in my opinion. Like, I'm not teaching Passivhaus because I just know Passivhaus and that's the way I went and it makes me money. No, it took me over 10 years to actually accept that Passivhaus is the first step. I was actually against Passivhaus because I didn't want to live in a sealed box and rely on a ventilator to stay alive. That was my mindset back in the day. And as well, all that ventilation system that then mold growth is happening and all that stuff. That was my mindset at the beginning. And it took me 10 years to actually understand that we actually need everything that Passivhaus is teaching us. Otherwise, we are not coming to a healthy home that is sustainable and affordable. It brings everything together. All the other things are important as well. But if we're not applying Passivhaus, we can't achieve the rest for it. But I can't explain everything today, obviously, especially because we're focusing on the finance side to understand how Passivhaus works on an economical side. Anything else? Yes, if you are live, I can't see the watch video on the event.
Yeah, it didn't connect again to the event. I don't know why, but we posted a link in there. So if someone goes into the event tab, then at least they find it.
Okay, cool. So there is then the event tab. Cool. So if you're in the event, it would be good for me to see that. Maybe not now, or maybe Simone, you can let me know what's the percentage and where we're at. So if, like, we have three types of people or three groups of people. We have the homeowners, we have the designers and the builders. And if you could put in a 1 if you're a homeowner, a 2 if you're a designer, and if you're a in the building part, then put a 3 into the chat, and then we can actually gauge who is actually here. And maybe I say a few more things for builders or for designers, depending on the percentage of people that are joining today. Okay, so let's start now with the presentation.
Sorry, can you just summarize again? I put it in the comments. 1 was?
1 is the homeowner.
Homeowner, yep.
2 is the designer.
Yep.
And 3 is the builder.
Perfect, thank you. Back to you.
Thank you. And let me share my screen now. Perfect. And as well, if you could let me know if you can see the shared screen now. Can you see Passivhaus unlock the power of green homes?
Yep.
Perfect, cool. So what are we covering today? Let me switch on my laser pointer. Cool. So agenda, we will cover a lot today. What on earth is Passivhaus? Then Passivhaus in Australia, then Passivhaus economics. Now we're going into the Passivhaus project costs. So what is the Passivhaus normally costing us? Then we come to project costs in 2022. Then we look at project costs in 2023 in May, so a year later. And then now we come from the cost to the benefits. And then we're looking at a case study of family Pioniero and family Stone Stack and how they're actually building and who is actually at the end able to build and who is not able to build. And then does Passivhaus limit design? So we discussed that. Then does Passivhaus is limiting building methods? And then how energy efficient are passive houses, to understand that a little bit better. And then what stops us from doing it in Australia? What's like the misconceptions or hurdles that we are facing? And then a few conclusions and then Q&As. So if you have questions, please put them as well into the chat, and then Simone will put them together and then read them out to me later. Perfect. First of all, I want to make clear this is not financial advice. This is just general advice only. Your personal circumstances could be completely different, and we need to look at your financing individually. Yeah, so that's something I want to say. You may not get exactly what I'm telling you. Maybe it's even better, but most likely you're not getting that massive advantage that I'm telling you about today, as we're obviously showing a little bit in favor of the whole situation, I would say. However, you will see it is so much in your favor. Even if 50% of what I'm telling you today, if you only can get a 50% of what I'm telling you, you're already winning from day one by actually upgrading your build to a passive house. And I'm not just saying it from an economical perspective, like just from a pure financial perspective, but as well from what you're actually keeping in your pocket. So what is actually staying in your pocket and how much more money you actually can spend every single day because you're going passive house. And on the other hand, you're having a better product. You're having a product that you can sell for more money, and you're doing something for your health and for the health of the planet, sustainability. Cool. So it will be a little bit of an information overload because I always have the problem that I try to give you too much. So it might feel a little bit like taking a drink from a fire hose. So stay tuned, maybe listen to the recording again and again to actually get everything that I have been saying. As well, we are already a little bit in a delay, so I may go through the stuff really quickly. Cool. So what on earth is Passivhaus? So Passivhaus creates a healthy and sustainable home that is affordable. Passivhaus separates the indoor environment from the outdoor environment. While the outdoor environment is changing, the indoor environment stays constantly between 20 and 25 degrees. So how is this done? Passivhaus creates a high-performing building envelope, supplies fresh air 24/7, and makes use of free energy harvesting and heat recovery. So that's pretty much what Passivhaus is doing. It's 30 seconds, and that's bringing it pretty much to the point. But what does this actually mean? So on the hottest day, we allow 10 watts into our building. Yeah, so the hottest day in Melbourne, the hottest day in Darwin, it's 10 watts per square meter, and even in wherever the hottest place on earth, it's still just 10 watts per square meter that we're letting into the building. Usually in the building regulations, I think for apartments is 120 or 130 watts per square meter. 10 watts per square meter is really little. The same we're having for the coldest day of the year. The coldest day in Hobart, your coldest day in Melbourne, your coldest day in Perth. It's always the 10 watts per square meter. That's the amount of energy we are allowed, load we are allowed to need to actually condition the space on the coldest day of the year. Cool. So that's what we're doing. Passivhaus can be applied for really small projects, like we see here, that 30 square meter off-grid building that is just on poles here and in the middle of a city center in Italy. Then here it can be used for high-rise buildings like the one here in the US, New York. So Passivhaus is suitable for all of that. Then Passivhaus can be even applied to whole developments. So we're seeing here the developments of China with 1.2 million square meter of living space, or here in Heidelberg, in Germany, Heidelberg with over 100,000 square meter living space. So this is already projects that are being built and they are existing out there. So Passivhaus at the end is comfort with clear conscience. Passivhaus are normal buildings built better. The additional cost for Passivhaus in Australia is between $250 to $750 per square meter. That's normally the range where we're at. That is then normally coming to residential buildings for 5% to 20% of the building costs. In commercial, it's often as little as 1% or even less if it's designed properly. Passivhaus in Australia. So the first new build was actually in South Australia, and it was built in concrete blocks. So that was the first Passivhaus ever built in Australia. Then the first retrofit was as well in 2013 in Victoria, and there was a timber structure. And the first apartment block was built 2017 in New South Wales, as well in concrete, like building in concrete. Then the first academic building was built in Victoria in 2020. And then the first big development, the major developer that went in, was in 2021 as well in Victoria. So we see already a little bit that concentration around Victoria has something to do about who actually started the whole movement, and that was mainly in Victoria. We have over 60 certified Passivhauses in Australia. However, we have over 100 Passivhauses in the certification process right now. So there's more buildings in certification than actually are already completed. So here we see this massive take up of Passivhaus, what I've as well experienced yesterday. So like 4 years ago, I could not even attract 70 people to a presentation. 2 years ago, 𝗵𝗵𝗁𝗲𝗲, he attracted 200 people, 200 architects to his presentation. And yesterday, we had nearly 1,000 signups for our presentation. Actually, this presentation I'm giving right now. So you see that hockey stick situation with Passivhaus, so it's really going crazy. Then in Australia, we already realized Passivhauses for less than $2,500. As well, Simone is able to, or has been able to develop Passivhauses in that price range. So Passivhaus does not need to be expensive. And it's ideal for social housing and affordable housing. So now let us look a little bit at the Passivhaus economics. Passivhaus economics really looks at your whole project. The project phase where you can save most of your money is actually in the startup phase. And this is where Passivhaus is focusing on. That's the Passivhaus design. That's the reason why you're paying more for your designer, because the designer has to do far more thinking before we come on site. So with a Passivhaus, you don't have the situations that the builder is on site and said, how do we figure that now out? All that has to be figured out before we even start on site, because otherwise we can't calculate the building as we are building as designed. In other words, we're creating a digital twin up front, and then that digital twin is then actually created on site. And this is the reason why we are spending more time here, because we can make the project more cost effective in our startup phase, in our planning phase. Cool. Then Passivhaus is an ideal investment into retirement, because you're now paying it through your active time, your career, your time when you're making money. And then when you're getting retired, you actually don't have really heating and conditioning, heating and cooling bill any longer. So it reduces your running cost dramatically, and you're having a really healthy living situation. What's really important when your body is not able to deal with these extreme temperature differences any longer, because your body is not as healthy any longer. Or if you're sick, then it's as well strongly in your benefit to be in a building that is always comfortable. Then as well, with Passivhaus, we can now attract green loans, where we can have a 25% higher borrowing capacity, and in the same time paying 20% less for actually the money that we are borrowing. In other words, with the green loan, if you're applying that to Passivhaus, then we're having $40 more in our pocket every single day. Does Passive cost more? Yes, it costs more. So we have to do all that works, like putting the membranes in, putting the thermal insulation in, putting the airtight, putting the ventilation system in there. All that stuff is additional work that needs to be done. And that's normally additional construction cost of 0 to 20%. If it's a low quality building, what I mean by that is if it's low finishes, then it could go up to 20%. If it's really unfortunate, it could go up to 20%. But if you're using really high end finishes, like you have glass handrails and stainless steel handrails, or maybe golden sinks, then the additional cost for a passive house is nearly nothing. Here, a little bit of where we are at. If you're going for a low finished architectural design for $2,500, then it's at 15%. So if you're pushing it farther down and try to bring it below the $2,000 square meter rate, then obviously we're coming up to the 20%. Then medium at $5,000, it's 8%. At high finishes with $7,500 per square meter, then we're at 5%. And if you're going up, like the sky's the limit, I think, in finishes, then it can easily come down to 0. The additional cost in the project that we are looking at was $384 last year in March. That's when the pricing has been done for that project. So when I'm saying our pricing is between $200 and $750, we're pretty much in that mid-range in the whole thing. So good planning can actually really push that additional costs down. Cool. So this is now that project that we're looking at, where we need to spend like this $380 additional per square meter. It's a 125 square meter house. So it's relatively small. And as smaller the project gets, as higher the additional costs are for a passive house. 3-bedroom, 23 square meters of windows. The additional investment for this project would be $48,000. $21,000 is in the design, $24,000 in the thermal envelope, and $6,000 would be the building services. So you see already there's a massive percentage in the design phase. Like I said, that's where we can save the money as well. The windows in the $24,000, the windows are $9,210 for that 23 square meters of windows. So this is one of the biggest myths that is out there, that passive house windows need to be expensive. They don't need to be expensive. However, if you're importing windows from Europe with triple glazing in xenon or krypton gas fill and have like moon cut timbers from Scandinavia, then obviously you're not getting that for $9,000. But that's your architectural choice. That's your choice as the client that you want to have that type of finish. It's not required to fill the passive house requirements. So these ones are UPVC, double glazed, high performing spacers, manufactured here in Sydney. Kinsale Industries were giving me that quote, and it's not a made rate, it's the standard rate. He would have even made it cheaper for me if I would have asked him for. And that's now that $384. Cool, per square meter. Cool. So that's now the breakdown of that cost again. That's not so interesting for us right now. So now when we're looking at the project cost analysis from May 2022, then the additional financial burden. So that means when we look, like I'm speaking about financial burden because it's not from a profit perspective. Because what we're doing here is we're looking at the additional investment, that $48,000 that we need to spend to actually build a passive house. And for that, we obviously need a loan, and that loan needs to be served. And that's like working against us, right? Makes total sense. So we are actually having to pay that loan, and that actually has a negative impact on our financial freedom, or financial availability, money that is available, cash that is available today. However, while we are doing that, we are as well saving money because our operational costs are massively reduced. So we are saving like about 50% is what I'm putting in there in saving. Like I looked at the average cost of Australians living in a house like this, and then Passivhaus is cutting that to half. What could be far more than that, but let us say it's just half, and that is then put against that loan, and by that the cost is a coffee a day. So a coffee a day is the financial burden that you would have to actually live with if you would go for conventional finance a year ago. So that's that. So for a coffee a day, you would get a healthy and sustainable building that creates you in the long run a financial freedom and return of investment. Actually, yeah, it's coming again anyway. It's pretty much the same because it's not changing at that end. So when we look at 2022, it's at 5%, the interest rate, and now in 2023, your interest rate for your mortgage is at 8%. So that's a massive, massive difference. And Simone, we spoke earlier, you're actually still in that range. So you're actually pretty lucky.
Six something, early six, but yeah.
Yeah. So this is a killer. Like this costs you a lot of money at the end. And when I looked at this, then we came at the additional cost is actually a coffee and a croissant a day in the first year. Then after 10 years, it's a croissant and a 7-Eleven coffee. But the same, then even a year ago, we get a free lunch when the loan is paid off every single day. So every single day you have a free lunch if you have built a Passivhaus, and after 30 years, the whole thing is paid. Now you're having a free lunch and a healthier life, and if you have done something for the environment. However, it's not so appealing any longer if you're looking at that. Cool. So now that would be the same again. So now the annual running cost of comparison cumulative. So yeah, that's again as well going a bit too far for here. So now this is the interesting part. So the borrowing capacity for homeowners pretty much went down by 30%, and the construction cost went up by 25%. So in other words, you only can afford half of what you were able to afford a year ago. Yeah, the interest rate went up by 3.85%. I think it's now even 4% or 4.05 or something like that. I don't know exactly what the rate was a week ago, but there was another interest rate hike. So we are now at the 4% mark, what is actually not working in favor of us. So in summary, you can only afford 50%. Late last year, I met Marissa Hofberg, and she said, hey, there's the opportunity of green loans. So let us look into that. So then she put a presentation together for me. So if you want to hear what she has to say, that's in that 3-hour course that is on our website. Passivhaus in Australia, is it too expensive? Where I explain all that stuff as well. Where is the money coming from? Or like, what's the cost of, what's the operational cost of a normal Australian house? What's the cost of a Passivhaus in Australia, and then how the whole thing is coming together. So that's all the details would be in that 3-hour course on our website. So in April 2022, if you were able to borrow $1 million, in May 2023, it's only $717,000, so 28% less than before. Now with that additional interest rate hike, I assume that's even more. So for your loan, you are paying $7,373,000 if you're still able to get that $1 million loan. However, if you would get now the green loan, and that would give you a discount of 2.81%, up to 2.81%. If you're lucky, maybe more, but most likely less than that. All what you need to make Passivhaus the same cost from day one than a conventional house, if your square meter cost is $2,500, is 0.6%, and the government gives you already 0.18%. So you just need to find a bank that gives you 0.42% to actually come to that 0.6. If your square meter cost is actually higher than $2,500, then this is actually going down. So you're getting already to the same cost situation of 0.5 or 0.4% when you're already winning this Passivhaus. Why is that? Because your green loan is not just for the Passivhaus components, it's for the whole project. And now because your whole project is more expensive and the Passivhaus percentage is smaller, that's the reason why more expensive passive houses per square meter are quicker economically beneficial with a green loan than not. I don't like it because it's against my belief. I rather want to help the ones that can't afford so much, but that's where we're at right now. So then if you get this 2.81% discount, then from our $5,373, we're coming down to $5,500. So from 7.5 to 5.5, it's a massive difference. What is your monthly repayment? Yeah, so
It's
that's
huge.
just it's huge. Yeah. So when we're now putting that into perspective, in a month, you're saving $1,850. In a year, it's $22,000 more in your pocket just by being able to getting that green loan because you're building a passive house. And if you look at that $22,000, the additional cost is $48,000. So in 2.5 years, you already paid for that investment. So after 2.5 years, your additional investment would be paid off, even if you're not keeping consideration that you're actually paying less for it. So it's like, it's a total no-brainer. It doesn't matter how you look at it, it always makes sense. So now with a green loan, so here the borrowing capacity only went down by 8.6% from that 1 million, from conventional 1 million ago, and now knowing about the green loans that just came on the market, then it's 8.66% less. So you still can borrow $913,000. So it's not as the drop is not so big. Cool. Now, so what is the reason why banks are giving you the discounts? Banks need to attract super funds. And the only way to attract super funds nowadays is for banks, or not the only way, but a really strong indicator of being attractive for super fund is sustainable investments. And the super funds, our retirement fund that we're having is the 5th biggest in the world. Yeah, and by that, super funds have a lot of power over banks because 41%, if I remember right, is actually financial investments of the super fund. So 40% of that money is more or less bank money, and that's the reason why banks have a super high interest to look and shine in front of the super fund, because then they're getting that money. And that's the reason why they're giving you that massive discount. So now that's all numbers, all a bit difficult. So let us look at a little case study of the family 𝗶𝗄 and the family 𝗀𝗏stack, and let us see what happens with these two families. So both of these families want to build a small house with 125 square meter. Family 𝗶𝗄 wants to build a passive house for $800,000, and $48,000 in that $800,000 is actually the passive house investment. And the family 𝗀𝗏stack wants to build the same house, but in the conventional way, and that is obviously that $48,000 more cost effective in construction. Now it's $752,000. So that was April 2022. Now, a year later, they're in the situation that they now have to spend $1 million to build the same building, and they have to spend $940,000. We're actually saying that the passive house components as well went up by 25%. The reality is passive house components didn't go up that much. Some of them stayed the same price, like windows are not necessarily more expensive. Air tightness went up by 15%. So it's not necessarily the same than the rest of the construction costs, but obviously labor is the same. But that's something to consider. So now when we look at the financing of them, so the family 𝗶𝗄 available total finance is $825,000 because they have available in cash $200,000. That's like the pay down payment that they can make. $625,000. That's what they would get with a conventional build. with a conventional loan, and now they're short by $175,000. And the conventional stone stack family house would get the same loan, but they're able to build cheaper. And now by that, they are only short by $115,000, but they already maxed out their mortgage capacity. In both cases, they can't get anything more. So both of the families can't build because of not able to get the mortgage. So now the dilemma of the family pioneer is the family pioneer cannot get the $800,000 loan. The best they can get is that $625,000. So they are short by the $175,000. And they're nearly giving up already because they can't find it. But now you're listening to this presentation and they hear about green loans. This is now designed obviously for the architects. So now the architect would bring that in front of their green loan specialist. The green loan specialist comes back to them. They get that 2.81% as a discount, and now it actually works. Now they're able to borrow the $800,000. So the additional $175,000 are now possible because of that discount of 2.81%. So then the risk goes down for them, and and they're able to borrow more. That's just how finance works. And now they're nearly able to cover 3 times the Passivhaus costs, because like we know, now it costs $60,000, but we're able to borrow an additional $175,000. So that's 3 times the money we need for the Passivhaus. So the additional $115,000 are now available to actually finance the rest of the build that is not needed for the Passivhaus components. And by that, when we're looking now at the financing, the Passivhaus is now not lacking of finance, and the one that still needs the conventional building is still lacking the $115,000. So the Passivhaus project is just getting through, and the other one doesn't work. So conclusion is, with the Passivhaus, we have a higher borrowing capacity, a lower interest rate, a better product, a sustainable product, a higher value product, and future-proofing. So future-proof product because you're having lower operation costs for the building itself. Okay, so what Passivhaus is giving us then, we get more money for less. So we are paying for Passivhaus components, and then we get additional money that we can actually use to actually complete the building. Cool.
That all sounds too good to be true.
Yeah, exactly. That's the reason I needed examples now. I need now people actually doing this and showing that that is actually possible. Even if you're not getting this 25% or that 25% higher mortgage, even if like it depends now on your mortgage capacity. So if you lost your mortgage because of finance that may be going to Passivhaus, makes that possible again. But if you're able to anyway increase your mortgage capacity, all what you need is 0.6% to actually even out between a Passivhaus and a conventional build. Yeah, that's all what you need. So that additional investment of in that project $60,000 would be then bringing it to an even on the financial burden that you would have to carry. And then obviously, as long as the project goes on, as more you're winning with your Passivhaus, but then you're having already a financial gain from day one. That's the important one. Yeah, and it definitely sounds far too good. Like I still like, is this really true? Is the, like, she should know what she's talking about, I hope. The green loan specialist. So that's what I'm really waiting for, that you guys come back and tell me, yes, it actually works. Cool. So that was the finance side. That's the new thing. Now let us go back to Passivhaus design. Is Passivhaus limiting design? No, Passivhaus is not limiting design. Everything can be built as a Passivhaus, even Sagrada Familia in Spain. Maybe you've seen that already. Can be built as a Passivhaus. The only issue will be it probably adds another 100 years of construction. So instead of 100x years, it's now 200x years. But it's not Passivhaus that is limiting design. It's your budget. It's always the budget. Yeah. So studies show that Passivhaus can cost up to 20%. Normally, it's not going up to 20% at all. Normally, like the average additional cost is about 8% for Passivhaus, just to give you a range. But architectural features, so that's your golden handrail, that's your golden sink and all this glass stuff that you're putting in, they're often more than 30% of the construction costs. So your finishes, you can save a lot on your finishes, and by that improving your cost effectiveness and actually achieving passive house as well. Passive house can only be done when you actually build, but your kitchen fit out can be done later as well. So you can get a relatively cheap IKEA kitchen at the beginning, and then 10 years down the line, replace it and get a better kitchen. Not necessarily the most sustainable option by doing that, but maybe you can sell the IKEA kitchen to somebody. But from a finance perspective, things like fit outs, we can always change later, but putting air tightness membranes and additional thermal insulation into our walls in later state is as good as impossible, except with a massive, massive undertaking. If it's a build that is anyway built a long time ago and has really poor thermal performance anyway, then there is an economical solution for it as well. But yeah, cool. So now passive house is not limited by design. When we're now going for construction methods, we can build passive houses in any construction method out there. This one is a steel passive house. This is a concrete passive house. This is a timber one down there. And this one is a straw bale. So everything can be done. You can choose whatever you want as your thermal insulation material to get the same thermal performance. If you're using a foam of 135 millimeters, that would perform the same than 180 millimeters of fiberglass, a half a meter of timber, 4.5 meters of brick, 9 meters of concrete, or 225 meters of steel. It's up to you what you want to use, but you're probably not getting so much out of your lot any longer if you're using steel. So it's up to you. How efficient is a passive house? For a 24 square meter living room, you could use 4 light bulbs with 60 watt, like our old light bulbs that were out there, a really small radiator, 8 tea lights, a hair dryer, or supply air heating via a heat recovery ventilation unit. So that's from what we need for supplying energy on the coldest day of the year. So this is 10 watts per square meter at any location. It doesn't matter where it is. It's always that 10 watts. So if you have a 1.5 kilowatt split system, there's like smaller than normally any split system you can buy. That would be sufficient for a 150 square meter house if you're building a passive house. So,
or you invite your neighbors for dinner and your house gets warm as well.
Exactly. So or it gets too warm already.
Yeah.
So here in Melbourne, we can Melbourne minus 2.5 degrees is the lowest ever temperature ever measured. For this, we still want to get the thermal comfort of 20 to 25 degrees. And then the thermal insulation thickness that we would need there is about 140 millimeters. And we need a split system of 1.5 kilowatts. If you're going to the Charlotte Pass, the coldest place in Australia, with minus 23 degrees, there we still want to get the thermal comfort of 20 to 25 degrees. Now we need 340 millimeters of thermal insulation, but our split system stays the same. It's a 1.5 kilowatt system. If you go to the hottest place in Australia where people live, then we are in Onslow, WA. Temperatures go up to 50.7 degrees. And there we still want to get that thermal comfort from 20 to 25 degrees. Here we need now 250 millimeters of insulation protecting us against the heat, not the cold. And now the split system needs to cool with 1.5 kilowatt. Yeah, so this is the efficiency of a passive house. That's theoretical. I normally don't recommend you to put only a 1.5 kilowatt system into your house, not because of the capacity of the split system, but far more because of how you're supplying it at one location. But that's it's now a bit technical, but theoretically that would be enough. So what stops us in Australia? It's that professionals often believe materials are not available, but the opposite is true. We can get everything here in Australia locally, like the heat recovery ventilation system. We have at least 4 suppliers. And for air tightness systems, we have at least 3 suppliers, but we can use as well things like OSB. So there is no nothing out there. Then the expensive side, we have covered that now. It's now between $250 and $750. Thanks to green loan, we can have actually a return of investment from day one. Passive houses are normal buildings, just built better. it's not rocket science. It's actually pretty simple. That's probably the reason, because it's boringly simple. Passivhaus works. Another thing is a little bit what I see with the builders is the fear of getting tested, especially the air tightness test. That's where everybody is fearful of. Here, the Scholten group, or the Scholten brothers, I call them, they are achieved 𝗂𝗶𝘁 air exchanges, wow, which is nearly 10 times better than what is required. So 𝗂𝗶𝘁 wasn't hard at all. With a bit of planning, it's easy. That was what Stuart Scholten was actually saying. So that's what it is. Conclusion: buying or building a house is a major financial decision. It's often the biggest one of investment of a lifetime of our clients or for yourself. So it's the biggest one ongoing cost for them with the mortgage and the operational costs. So we can control the mortgage because of our type of investment that we do and the green loans. But the running costs, we have no control over. I don't know if you got as well the letter from your energy provider. I heard some of them was an additional 50% of costs. In a passive house, you can ditch a digit. So if that increase is $500 for you, in a passive house, it would be just $50 increase. So it's really a massive difference. It gives you that future security in your building. That's why it's important to consider budget and the value of the investment. That's what we're doing with a passive house. So we need a bigger mortgage to finance a passive house, but with green loans, that it's not a problem any longer. We can get up to 2.81% lower interest rates, and with this we get 2 free lunches every single day from day one. So people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that do. That's what Steve Jobs said. So let's change the world. Let's be crazy. Let's make it different. Thank you.
Thank you. That's amazing. We have lots of questions here, and everyone is asking, who are those banks? Who do I have to talk with, and where do I get it? And is it really true? Yeah. So yeah, and Julia said, you had spoken with Marissa Hoffman. Hoffenberg, and she's actually in the live as well, and said, yeah, please reach out to her. So yeah, if anyone listens to this, please, Marissa, I think we're gonna all spam you.
Yeah, as well from yesterday, I have a few requests of connecting. Yeah, just in at the time yet. Cool.
But that I can understand it. So is that kind of a memo that came out, whatever, that banks have to do this now, or where is this? Do you know where is this coming from? Given that most banks even don't know it yet.
The banks actually know it. It's just you just have to find it. So when I'm looking for it, I normally find 0.3%. That's that green loan discount that you get. But now, depending on, and that's what they're putting on their website. But now, depending on your personal situation, you can get far more discounts, and that is now depending on your circumstances. So. And how to do that, I have no clue. That's not my expertise. For this, we have people that are specialized in mortgages and working with a mortgage broker. Yeah, that's what I would recommend, because I couldn't find it myself when I was looking into it. But I know that there are the banks out there that can give you far more than 0.3% discounts. Yeah, and all what we need is 0.6, and then we're financially.
Yeah, but is it right? So that just was introduced a short while ago. That's why it's not everywhere yet. But yeah, I guess we would expect that it pops up more and more. That maybe even banks start to promote it. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, they're promoting it already, but not so big yet. As well, who has heard about that 0.18% discount by the government? I've never heard it. I just found it on their websites where it's like. The one bank that I looked at, they were like, last year it was 0.2% discount, now it's 0.3, and I looked at it and said, wow, great, it went actually up by 0.3, but then I looked into the fine print and said, yeah, 0.18% is coming from the government, and 0.12% is coming from them. I said, wait a second, you're now actually giving us a lower discount than before, because the government is now carrying more of the weight. Yeah. So we have to be careful, especially how long are you getting that discount? Is it only for the first 3 years, or do you get that discount through the whole period? So even if you have a flexible loan, what most of the time you're getting, you want to make sure that your green loan discount is not just applying for the first 5 years, but as well ongoing, things like that. So there's little pitfalls that you want to look out for.
Yeah, but probably you would need to be a bit careful. Then if you have a special discount just for a few years, then maybe you try to pay off as much as you can, or maybe even you try to pay off that extra discount, and then you're so many light years ahead with your mortgage.
Yeah, okay, that's true as well. Like if you're using that $22,000 additional and pay them off, that's another 100,000 that you can pay off of your loan in the first 5 years.
Yeah, imagine that. That's a lot of money. No, that is great. So yeah, definitely gonna reach out to you, 𝗵𝗿. But yeah, will be interesting then, you know, how the banks react, and you know how they come on board, and if it's getting across more. I've been talking with Sonja from 𝗵𝗿𝗲𝗲. So, you know, people in my group, they probably might have heard from 𝗵𝗿𝗲𝗲. So 𝗵𝗿𝗲𝗲 is kind of a startup group that's looking at more, you know, how to renovate, or, you know, how help people to make their homes more energy efficient. And they're in discussions with a lot of banks as well. And there has been an article in some of the news agencies about, you know, banks want our houses to be more like washing machines. So the banks actually want that houses have ratings, because like you said, for them as well, you know, with investment, you know, the banks want sustainable investments. And if our homes are getting greener and more sustainable, they can borrow more money on them. So that the banks are actually starting to put quite a bit of pressure on the industry, you know, to get ratings on all the houses, to get them more energy efficient. And while the movement is slow, it is happening, and it is building up.
Yeah, as well, like what is happening, what we have seen over the last few decades is like the first level of protest was against things. I'm against atomic power. I'm against coal, oil, all that against, and people going in the street. That's pretty much what the Friday for Future movement is today. And that's the young generation as well. That's the people that can do that well. Then the next generation was, yes, I'm against this, but this is the solution. So Passivhaus is the solution. We can get your health problems under control. We can get the sustainability into the, under control, and even make it affordable by this optimization with Passivhaus. So we're showing solutions. So that's normally that 30, 40, 50-year-old generation. And now the third level of protest is finance, taking the money away. So normally that's more the people that are at the end of their career, and as well the retirement payment. So for example, if it's just something I listened in the Economist podcast 2 weeks ago. For example, if you're putting your super fund from a not sustainable super fund to sustainable super fund, that is 21 times better for the environment than your recycling. So you could stop recycling completely and invest that time that you were investing into the recycling to change your super fund from one super fund that is not ethical to a sustainable super fund. 21 times.
Wow.
Yeah,
that is huge.
You could probably fly twice to Europe in a year or something like that. It's crazy.
Then if you still keep recycling, you're actually doing something really good.
yeah. So it's like money has such a big strength, and with telling, because the super fund is a lot of money that's lying around that we're not using. Normally our personal account is a few $1,000s normally that is lying around, is not doing so much, but our super fund is anyway for long-time investment, and sustainable investment is long-time investment. That's always a good solution. If you're telling that money, I want sustainability, then this green loans and everything is coming more and more as well. Yeah, so it's like, it's a really strong indicator for the finance world to make the right choices. So moving a super fund is as well something really, actually, it's something I normally hand out with my employment package. It's like, guys, move to a better super fund and consider a better bank where your money is lying around.
And maybe I put a question to 𝗵𝗿 in the group, maybe because so many people are asking for banks. You know, I'm not sure if there are any specific banks, 𝗵𝗿, you know already, that have been open to it. If you want to put it in the group, if not, you know, people can definitely reach out to you directly. That would be great. But yeah, very, very exciting, very exciting news.
Yeah, and like 2.81%, that's what we used in the example. What's a realistic figure, but all what we need is 0.6. All we need is 0.6 to make it economical. And even last year, I spoke about that in my presentation. I said, all what you need is 0.4 by the government, and now it works, because 0.2 we get by the banks, 0.4 by the government, and now it's actually from day one economical. And now with the green loans, it's a total game changer,
Yeah. Very, very exciting. So hopefully, yeah, you can't put money on your health, but, you know, for many people, unfortunately, you know, it is money. People can't afford it. Yeah. But excuse me, hopefully that will make the thing.
There we are. Are you not living in a passive house?
I am.
Yeah. So as well, like this was now super fast with a lot of details missing. On our website, there is the course already. There is 3 hours of content explaining what I've just put in this, what was it now, 45 minutes or something? So there's far more details to the whole story and understanding why banks are doing it, as well how I came up with that figures of the like the cost of energy for running a house, how all that things is coming together. If you want to have a better understanding, that would be on our website. As well, if you learn about Passivhaus, there is free courses or really cheap courses on the website as well, and a whole community already where you can as well engage. So it's like pretty cool. So check out 𝗁𝗶𝘁 Academy. Bit different than other websites. We have 2 icons in the top. One icon, the one with the owl, the bird, that one brings you to the Learning Hub, and the Learning Hub is where the courses, where the learning is taking place, and where the courses are, and the community is as well. And there you will find as well discussion groups where you can actually work with each other and discuss with each other.
Yeah, and it's a really great community. So several of my team have done the courses with Daniel, and, you know, they've all been really happy and learned a lot. But yeah, and no matter, you know, if you're a designer or architect yourself, if you want to do the whole course or just know a little bit, you know, there is something for everyone.
Yeah, so I think it's 54 courses or so is right now on the website. So I think everybody should find something that's interesting.
Definitely.
I don't know, do we have a lot of passive house designers and tradies on? I'm not sure. I'm getting more and more questions regarding renewing your certification.
Yep. There were a few, there were not that many, but mainly
then
homeowners and a few builders.
Yeah, so if you join the group on our hub now, like the Learning Hub, then I will put a video together how to renew your certification, because that's something that comes up for a lot of you guys now, the one that are coming to that 5 years mark. And I'm getting every week now questions about it. So I put a video together, and you will find that then as well in the group for the alumni people, the Smart+ members. Yeah.
Perfect. But I just wanted to mention something what I had spoken with Daniel prior before we jumped online. So I used to, speaking of health and Passivhaus, so I used to suffer from asthma quite a lot. A lot meaning that I would have coughing fits all the time. I was on all kind of medication you can imagine, you know, 𝗃𝗃, preventer, steroid tablets, the whole lot. And since living in the Passivhaus for almost a year, it's pretty much gone. So I don't have much left. Or, you know, I can't even remember once I used the 𝗃𝗃 last time. And today I actually had a full kind of health check where they checked my lungs, and they said, no, there's nothing, you know, you're all good. Very good volume. I said, oh, that's nice. First time in many, many years. Yeah. So there is definitely a bright side to living in a Passivhaus besides, you know, low energy bills.
Yeah, it's like, I hear that a lot, and former clients of mine, they kept sending me emails and saying, hey, our asthma is gone, our sinuses infections is gone, or my eyes are not hearing any longer, and things like this. So it's normally the life quality goes up so much in a passive house. Yeah,
it is. I mean, you get a little bit spoiled, you know, if the temperature goes down to 19 degrees, like, oh, you know, it's getting a bit cold. So yeah, complaining on a very high level.
Yeah. That's you know, it's definitely a good investment into your life quality as well. And that's, I think, something that's changed a lot as well, thanks to the pandemic. Like when we had to spend so much time at home, so health and comfort has been coming so much more as an important factor. Yeah. Cool.
Definitely wonderful. So yeah, so if anyone watches the recording, and, you know, if you have any questions, please just put them at the bottom. Daniel is in the group as well. You know, he can answer, or I can pinpoint him to it. And if you have any questions about where to get this amazing discounts, then I think 𝗵𝗿𝗲𝗲𝗵 is our person at the moment, so you might get flooded with messages, but yeah, very excited. I would say, watch the space, and hopefully we see a bit more action happening in this place, that people, don't have to search for it. Maybe at one stage, banks will actually tell us, where we can find it.
Yeah, and please, soon you're getting these discounts, even if it's only 0.6% or something. Please let us know about it.
And which bank?
In which bank, and then I hopefully in a half a year I can then do a presentation and say, here, these are all the examples that we actually had with success, that had success to actually get those green loans. Because in the moment, I must say, it's just theory. The theory tells us it's possible, but is it actually really happening? I want to have real examples, not just speaking about theory in that one. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks so much. So thanks everyone. Have a good night and see you soon.
See ya, guys.
Bye.